Hello AOS fans, it is me Pete, and I'm back to give you another deck review of another upcoming battle report. This will be a best of 3, like most of our battle reports these days, and depending on whether you're on YouTube or one of our super duper Patreon supporters, you'll either get 1 game or 3 games. So who have I chosen to play this week? Well, you've already seen by the intro, but I'm playing the Thorns. Not played the Thorns in a while, you know what? I wanted to try something different with them, so this time round, I've got a all objective grabby Thorns deck. So I'm not going offense with these guys, I'm going all defense because I think their 2 defense dice once inspired can make them quite hard to take out. And I figured rather than going offense, as my last 2 decks have been all offense based, I'd go more objectively. So here's what I've got for you. The first one is Conquest. Now I can already hear you saying, but what happens, Pete, when the objectives are in your half? Well, my hope is that near the end of the game, if this has come out, I'm then just going to make a sprint for Robin's side of the board, but it all depends on what cards I've got. I then have Cover Ground because I'm going to have a lot of abilities which are going to help me move 6 or more hexes, so hopefully I can capitalise on that mid-round, because mid-round is where objective decks do fall over a bit, and I do think that the objective based decks could do with a few more instant score cards in there. Maybe something like the minute you stand on 2 objectives then you gain a glory or something like that. So it could be less glory, 1 glory for 2 objectives, but it's instant. Something like that might be a bit nice to have. I then have Escalation because why wouldn't you? Miraculous Escape next because I've got a lot of defense dice. I reckon I can survive a few 3 dice attacks, and again it's another score immediately for me. I then have the Duo, our only way out in Supremacy. Got to take both of those. Stand on 3 objectives. I reckon I can do that with all the bodies I've got, and that's 5 glory between the 2 of them. I then have Tactical Supremacy 1, 2 and Tactical Supremacy 3, 4. Now, I always am an R about these cards, but I think for 2 glory, standing on 2 objectives with the bodies I've got floating around, quite literally, I reckon those are fairly doable cards for me. I then have Death Sentence. Score immediately if 3 or more friendly fires are adjacent to the same enemy fighter. I am planning on hopefully using MacLeod's ability to swarm people forwards and try and envelop my opponent as much as possible, getting as many of my guys inspired as quickly as possible and getting all those assists in wherever I can, and maybe driving Robin back. I then have Fired Up. Scoring an end phase of at least 1 surviving friendly fire is inspired. Well, that should be pretty easy for me to accomplish. And then Tactical Supremacy 1 and 4. Like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but it's 1 and 4. You see what I did there? Again, I think this should be hopefully fairly easy to score, and if 1 and 2 aren't that scoreable and 3 and 4 aren't that scoreable because one of them's on the wrong side, then hopefully maybe 1 and 4 will be scoreable, but we'll see how they fall. I will be pushing forward into Robin's zone, as I said, so my plan is to hopefully put all my objectives nearer forwards, and that'll help me out. So here are my Gambits. I've gone for a 22 card deck this time round, and what have I taken? Well, here they are. I've gone for Distraction because it's always handy being able to shove an opponent out of the way, especially if they're standing on one of my objectives, or if I want to move them just a little bit further away so they can't mush my face quite as easily. Duel of Wits because 22 cards needs a Duel of Wits in there. Ephemeral Shield for +1 defense for the first attack the next round. Very handy to have, especially if I've already got something inspired. That's 3 defense dice. Hidden Piles because I'm going to be running people up the board. I want to try and get as many over there as quickly as possible. Improvisation to hopefully get as many of these cards out as I humanly can. Now I'm drawing 15 normally if I don't discard any. Improvisation and Duel of Wits gives me access to another 5. That's nearly my entire 22 card deck there. Then Inspiration Strikes. I'd rather not have to rely on the Queen of MacLeod getting close to someone to inspiring, so hopefully I can play this on them earlier, get them inspired, and then they can do a bit of running around and useful stabbing if I have to. Then have Last Chance. Always going to take this in a dodge based deck. 66% chance of not dying if you're meant to be killed. I'll take that one. Then Quick Advance. I know I already have MacLeod's move to shove everybody 2 hexes, but there's sometimes a very handy ability being able to shove 2 people 1 hex each. Hopefully I can run up to a couple of objectives and then use that at the last moment to jump on them and score Supremacy. And then have Howling Vortex, the only spell I think that is actually worth taking in this game so far. It needs 1 swirly and the Queen rolls 2 dice. The swirly has about a 33% chance of scoring. No, it's 50 in fact, because there are 2 swirlies and a crit. So 2 dice, 50% chance on each. If you score it, then it's a bit like Great Concussion. It only affects your opponent, and you can push them any way you want. It's freaking awesome. It's an absolutely brilliant card. I think it's a must-have in any Spooky Boy deck. It's like Distraction, but it impacts all of your opponents and none of yours, and all you've got to do is get 1 swirly on 2 dice. I think that's pretty good. And then I have Irresistible Prize. Anybody within 2 hexes of a objective, you push them all 1 hex. So again, hopefully that'll help me get further up the field, get more of my guys near an objective, and just really hopefully gang up on whatever Robin's bringing to the table. And Transfixing Stare, just in case Robin has a pretty tough, nasty character there, I'll run someone up, use Transfixing Stare, and then for at least one round they're not going to be able to do very much at all because they place a movement token there. On the off chance that Robin has taken a Mollog, then that will be very handy. So those are my Gambits. They're going to help me score that glorious glory, but what am I going to spend it on? Well, here are my upgrades. Acrobatic first for +1 defense dice, thank you. Cursed Artifact for -1 wound, but another +1 defense dice, thank you. Deathly Fortitude, -2 move for +2 wounds. Now I don't think the -2 move is going to be too much of a factor for me in the end. I'd rather have the 2 wounds, please. Ethereal Shield, turn your defense characteristic into shields. Well, whoever doesn't get Acrobatic or Cursed Artifact will get that. Maybe they'll get Cursed Artifact and the Ethereal Shield to roll 3 shields. Then Great Fortitude, +1 wound, always very handy. Great Strength as well for +1 damage. Someone like the Queen of Varclav could very much become quite nasty with that. And then also have Inescapable Vengeance. When the fighter makes a move or charge action, instead of moving them normally, you can place them on any starting hex. This is for the Briar Queen. It'll help me teleport her across the board once I get her upgraded. She might be able to jump to a position to then get a nice attack off with a Great Strength, something like that. And then have Champion's Fortitude, reroll 1 defense dice. From rolling 3 or 4 defense dice, having a reroll in there as well would be very nice indeed. And then Fameway Crystal, the ability to teleport across to an objective. 1, it's great because I want to get on those objectives, and 2, I'll be able to teleport across to hopefully back up the Queen if she's already gone sprinting across the board. Maybe combine that as well with Hidden Paths. I can swarm across really quickly and hopefully start to overwhelm whoever's there and choke up all the objectives. Then Sudden Growth, yes, another -2 move and +2 wounds, but you know what, I might as well get as many of them out as I possibly can. And Tomb of Glories at the end. Tomb of Glories is one I haven't really taken before, but it gives one of you guys an action that if they're staying on an objective, you just gain 1 glory. But if I can get that early on, then that would be really handy to have. I can just leave one of my spooky boys in the backfield. They can just plinky plonk away every phase, get one of those, get one of those. It's a mid-turner. It's very handy if I need to get that glory out to get an objective put on to be able to do something. It could be very handy indeed. Could also be rubbish, but we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. The only thing I can think of that this deck kind of lacks is maybe a sidestep or something like that. Something that allows me to move my own guys around. But we'll have to see how I get on with that. I did struggle to get it down to 22 cards, and I can't think of a Gambit that I'd want to get rid of in favour of that. Possibly get rid of Quick Advance and put Sidestep in, because then I could use it on the Queen. I can't decide. I mean, it's really handy to be able to move 2 people instead of 1, and I think I'm going to more often want to move 2 people than just the Queen. But I'll have to see. So let me know, what do you guys think of this deck? Have you played a deck like this before? And if so, what would you recommend that I would keep or get rid of? I'd love to hear what you think. And I shall see you soon in the Mirrored City. Bye!